Sure. The internet that I have here is 1/4 of the price of what I pay in the US, and it's twice as good. I spend, $50 on a grocery trip to go stock up. I would spend 500 in the US for the same quality. I'm healthier, I'm happier, I'm in better shape than I've ever been in my life. The hospital was very, very worried at the end and said, "Sir, you're not Sri Lankan yet. We have to bill you for this visit. I'm so sorry, but we can't let you go until you pay your bill." And I'm like, being American, I'm like, okay, oh God, what is this going to be? I think it was $16 for our whole visit. My prescription for the medicine that I needed, that trip was $40. And I was out of there within an hour and a half. In the United States, if you go to the emergency room, you're going to be there for 10 hours before somebody even sees you. People romanticize the West and want to get out of there, and we romanticize this life from the West.
You guys do marketing on a next level, you can just market anything. I tell my husband, your pizza and pasta is now famous thanks to the Americans.
Right.
Click here to watch the first half of Nick's episode, and please subscribe to see more videos of expat and returned Sri Lankans interviews. Let's go to the video.
Talk about this on other social platforms. Instead of renting your house or the shop, why don't you start something small? Instead of giving it up or selling your land like you mentioned before, why don't you start something small and see if it's going well? Then maybe you can invest more on it. That's the problem. The Sri Lankans don't have the capital to invest, unfortunately.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I just think fortunately, from a financial standpoint, as far as like looking at the rest of the world and, some smaller countries that I've been to, Sri Lankans, for the most part, are pretty smart with money. I mean, there's people obviously that just, but I think as a people, the education level around money is a lot better than a lot of places in the world. But I think, I don't know if it's somehow, I don't know what the answer is with the government and with helping people get that financial education or get that boost that they need to start letting their house out so that they can make a little bit of money. Because here's the thing, backpackers, even families that I've met here, people want that Sri Lankan experience. They want to stay at auntie and uncle's house in the back room and eat dinner with them and ride around in their tuk-tuk and play with their kids. And, people want that experience. So I think with Sri Lankans too, there's a lot of copycat that goes on. They see one guy open a pasta shop, so then they open a pasta shop.
Very true.
And then there's another pasta shop and another one. Instead of people looking, or, it's the same with, there'll be somebody on the side of the road selling coconuts. And then there's 50 coconut guys selling them. And everybody's making it somehow. But it's like, if we could educate people on how to support each other's businesses and go, oh, you know what? Asita, he's got his coconut stand. I'm going to do a lime stand next to it and make sure I got a cooler so that he can do cool coconuts. And then Auntie can do hoppers next door. And then we can do all these ancillary things where they're all supporting each other, instead of everybody trying to jump on the bandwagon and potentially ruining the business for everybody, because now everybody sells one coconut a day instead of you selling 50 coconuts, her selling 50 lime juices, her selling 200 hoppers, so on and so forth. So I think there's a big education thing where we really need to get that out to the people. And I don't know what the answer is to that, unfortunately. I mean, in my head, it works and it makes sense, but how to get that on paper and how to relay that to people, is a whole nother story.
Yeah, but I have a plan in June when I come. I want to do a workshop with, I'm talking to a person, maybe you can help me too, to do a free workshop, maybe a webinar on how to brand your business. I mean, you can just play around with the tags like vegan food available, or these kind of words like family owned or female owned. These little words carry so much. Some people find it really meaningful. So maybe I can contact you for that.
Most definitely. Like I said, in any way that I can support you in your mission, I'm 100% there. And that is, you're right. Branding is a huge thing because everybody, it's the same thing like we were saying. Everybody says,
hi.
This is Amelie.
Hi. She's cute.
Thank you. Okay, go play. Um, yes, branding is a huge thing, and I'm learning a lot about marketing. I've kind of just gotten into marketing. But yes, branding and sticking out a little bit differently and setting yourself apart because, like we said, somebody puts up a coconut stand and all of a sudden it's cool coconut signs for a quarter mile. And that's not standing out. And same thing, yeah, like you're saying, people want vegan food, people want vegetarian food, they want organic food. There's all these things where you can really create a name for yourself and do it. And unfortunately, a lot of the people that are really doing well with hotels, with restaurants, they know that branding. They know how to set themselves apart. They know how to do something outside of the box, and it works really well. And unfortunately, with most people here, and I think the biggest thing is like you're saying, if you can do a webinar, if we can get the education, because if you've been raised in Talpe and you don't know what a luxury restaurant or a luxury menu looks like,
Exactly.
you know, I'm very blessed and luckily I've been all over the world and I've been to all different kinds of cuisine and I'm not a restaurateur, but if that was the route that I was going, I could probably pretty quickly figure out
Mm,
what guidebook I need to follow because I've seen it
mm.
and I've done it. So I think, yeah, like you're saying, getting that out there and letting people know, hey, be different. Just because somebody's selling coconuts, that means that's the last thing that you should do. You should go figure out how to support those coconuts. What is something someone wants with their coconut and go put that right next to them.
Yeah, yeah. But now I think with the help of social media and platforms like YouTube, even youngsters, I always talk about this. They can just, it's like a Google away what to do, or just
Correct.
Google pictures, and you will learn so much from those. Yeah.
Correct.
So, Nick, I know you are in super love with Sri Lanka, as I am.
Mm.
So let's
Yes.
talk about the safety and the facilities for you as a family, as a couple, and for your kids, like sports and other activities, hospitals. How's the healthcare? How's the infrastructure?
Okay. So the infrastructure, the internet that I have here is one quarter of the price of what I pay in the US, and it's twice as good. We obviously like down south and actually all over the island, they've been going through some stuff with power. So we have some power drops, and every once in a while they give
Mm,
us some several weeks notice that we're not going to have power for a day because they're doing maintenance. Internet, and as far as like being a remote working, because I do actually a webinar every Sunday in the US. So I did one at 3:30 this morning. I do a
mm,
webinar to teach people about my software that I developed. Um,
mm,
I've got the fastest, cheapest internet that I've ever had in the world here. So as far as that is, absolutely spot on and absolutely beautiful. The fiber that we've got here is absolutely amazing. Um,
mhm.
um, Let's see, grocery stores, there's certain things that we do go get at the grocery store, and grocery stores abound down here in the South now. You can go get everything from cheddar and American cheese to pizza sauce to I mean, really about anything that you could want. Olives, and I mean, you can make about any dish that you want if you're not craving Sri Lankan food. We try to stick to the local markets and buy our curd from the curd guy and go get our hoppers from the
Yes,
auntie down the road. And there's the uncle that's right down the road that's got his vegetable and fruit stand. And I try to support those people as much as possible. And if you've been to Sri Lanka or you live in Sri Lanka, you'll know that the produce here is some of the best in the world.
yes.
It's absolutely
Still
insane
very
what you get,
organic,
and
without
it's
the
organic.
label
That's
or
all
the extra price for it.
right. And yeah, it's the best produce, it's the best fruit in the world, and that's the thing, literally what I spend, $50 on a grocery trip to go stock up, I would spend 500 in the US for the same
Mm,
quality food.
mm,
So,
mm, mm.
from that point, all of our meats we're getting from the butcher, and they're all fresh. Absolutely every day I see them. I leave my house at 6:30 in the morning, or about 6:15 to go surfing, and the trucks are dropping the chickens off. And when I come back from surfing, all the chickens are in the cooler. And so it really doesn't get any fresher or better than that. I'm same thing. This is my first time living here 6 months. The most I've been here is for 2 months at a time, and we usually did that every year. Um, but I'm healthier, I'm happier, I'm in better shape than I've ever been in my life.
Mm.
As far as um facilities with, once again, same thing. There's anything that my kids want to do. They want to learn about surfing. There's 100 surf guides down on the beach. I happen to be a surfer and have gotten quite good at it over the last 6 months. So I'm teaching my children to surf now. Um, we've got my daughter wanted to start tennis lessons. We went into went to the tennis courts, got a private instructor, and she's doing tennis. Same thing down the road from our house. There's another wonderful facility. It's a cafe with um, like play area for kids. They do karate there. They do dance. They do singing. They do dance. I mean, there's everything there on a weekly basis that we could want. And
Nice.
then same thing, just trying to find traditional dance and going down and checking out the fish markets and the fishermen. And I think from an education level, there's everything that you could ever want here. And as you know, Sri Lankans are very, very heavy on education. So if there's something
Mm.
you need in the way of a tutor or someone to teach your children, it's probably the most qualified pool of anywhere in the world. Here, just sitting next door, and have just beautiful, beautiful minds. Um, as far as like medical, we've had to go to the hospital 3 times since we've been in here, Sri Lanka. One time we were for Christmas time, we were up in Norelia, and my daughter got a really, really bad fever, and we
Mm.
had to take her into the hospital there. And we had to stay the night. We had to get her on oxygen because she had a really bad fever. We stayed the night in the hospital. We had doctors attending, nurses attending to us all night long. All of
Was
her
it a private hospital?
this was actually a public hospital, but I have been to a private hospital. So this was
Mm-hmm.
a public hospital. My daughter got better. We got our all our stuff for the pharmacy, and the hospital was very, very worried at the end and said, "Sir, you're not Sri Lankan yet. We have to bill you for this visit. I'm
Mm.
so
Mm.
sorry, but we can't let you go until you pay your bill." And I'm like,
Mm.
being American, I'm like, okay, oh God, what is this going to be? I think it was $16 for our whole visit to stay there, $16 US. In America, that would have been a $20,000
I
visit
know.
at the bare minimum. The doctors that were attending were trained in the US at some of the
Mm.
top medical schools that there are in the US. They spoke absolutely perfect English. They were some of the most, it was a beautiful experience, as beautiful as it could be for having my youngest daughter being very sick. And it was
Mm.
$16 to boot to get out of there. It was the same thing. I had gotten a some kind of like sinus infection. We were getting ready to go to Malaysia. I said, okay, this is not kicking. I need to go down to the private hospital here in Gaul. I walked into the emergency room. I said, I need to see a doctor. They walked me straight into the doctor's office. I told her what was going on. She gave me a note for blood tests. I walked across the street. I got my blood tests. I waited 1 hour. I went back and saw her. And she gave me my prescription for the medicine that I needed. That trip was $40. And I was out of there within an hour and a half. In the
Mm.
United States, if you go to the emergency room, you're going to be there for 10 hours before somebody even sees you, let alone
Right.
getting blood work, doing all this. You're going to be there for 12 hours at the very least. And you're going to be sitting most of the time miserable and sick. The doctor is going to see you for maybe 2 minutes, and the rest of the time it's going to be a nurse attending to you. And they're just going to kind of they want to keep you in there as long as they can, because every minute you sit in the hospital is $1,000 or whatever it is. So, for the $40 I spent there, that probably would have been an $8,000 visit in the US. And once again, beautiful hospital, clean, uh,
Mm.
doctors and attending nurses were most professional I've ever had in the world. The price was absolutely insane. And once again, doctors spoke perfect English, and they were educated at better facilities than I would get in America. And it's the same I've had the same thing with going to the dentist. A $3,000 dentist trip in the US cost me $300 out of pocket here. And
Mm.
the dentist that attended to me is is way more qualified than the dentist that I use in the United States. And not saying anything against my dentist in the United States because he's a wonderful man, but as far as education level and what they know and the facilities, it was top notch. So that's one huge thing that, we were worried when we were leaving. It was like, do we get travel insurance? What happens if we have to go to the hospital? What if we need something? And that is totally out the window now, because if I need something, I can just go in, and whatever I have in my pocket is probably gonna cover it. And
Yeah.
from that standpoint, it really makes you look, and that's a big thing, and not to get too into it, but it's really made me look at the American healthcare system, just the American way of life, and going, I can get the same doctor, the same medications, and the same outcome for $40, and this private hospital is profitable with that.
Mm.
What's going on? Something's not adding up here.
This is one of the
So
things.
go ahead,
Yeah,
go ahead.
this is one of the things I tell my friends in Sri Lanka. They don't believe me until they go abroad, experience it to themselves, and they say, "Yeah, if I were in Sri Lanka, I would have done all this in just one day." We do look down upon our the free services we have. We are blessed to have, like medical health. I'm sorry, the healthcare and the school, the education. But once you fly out, you start realizing. So Nick, you said you are in Unawatuna, somewhere in the down south, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Unawatuna.
Okay, I know you have personal reasons to choose that location in Sri Lanka, but why? Why not Colombo? Why not Kandy or other parts of Sri Lanka? Why Unawatuna?
So really at heart, I was born in Hawaii. So like my earliest
Mm-mm-mm.
memories as a kid, we lived right next to the beach. I went to the beach every single day. I grew up in the ocean. And not this is necessarily where we're gonna be. This is kind of where we found a really good priced house to move into, to live in. When we got here, we were kind of just flying by the seat of our pants and like making posts on Facebook. The ocean feeds my soul in really in a the easiest way to say it is that the ocean feeds my soul. I need to be in the ocean daily. Like I said, I've taken up surfing and gotten quite good at it. I spend, when the sun comes up, either by myself or with my daughter, we're there, out in the ocean on our surfboards as the sun's coming up every single morning. And I try to go in the evening before dinner also. The ocean feeds my soul. The people close to the beach, are my people. It's a slower life. In Colombo, there's a hustle and bustle, and nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
Colombo, but I grew up in rural America. I grew up in the mountains. I worked in the timber industry. I grew up in the woods. I grew up
Mm.
on with hundreds and hundreds of acres of uninhabited land as my backyard that I played in. So the mountains do call me a bit, but that was my earliest memories as a kid are at the beach. And yeah, I guess in a nutshell, the sea feeds my soul. Seafood, fish feed my soul.
Mm.
Just being close to the ocean is that's my ideal life. And not that Unawatuna is it for us. We've made some really good friends, some really good connections. And I think we'll probably be somewhere, from Matara to Gaul, somewhere in there.
Mm.
I think we'll try to settle and have our home. Um, but I don't know yet. Unawatuna is just happens to be where we landed. I've spent a little bit of time in Talpe over the years, not a whole lot.
Mm.
So I kind of knew the area a little bit, probably more than I knew most places. And this is just kind of where we landed. I knew that I wanted to be able to go to the beach with my kids every day. My kids love the ocean.
Mm.
And yeah, it's just a good place. I'm not too far from Colombo. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, the ocean feeds my soul, I guess, to put it in, if I had to put it in one sentence, that's what it is.
Also in Sri Lanka, within 2-3 hours, you are in the mountains. If you like the beach, drive a bit. It's so convenient.
Correct,
It's like a
correct.
little intense pack of adventure everywhere.
It's insane. I try to tell people it's the most diverse place you can get ever. And people ask, well, how big is Sri Lanka? And I go, well, it's about the same size of Oregon. Now, Oregon, you can drive from one side of Oregon to the other. In the state that I live, you can drive across the whole state in about 4 hours. Now, that's at 80 miles an hour on a freeway that are made for people to go really fast, so on and so forth. So it's hard to put it in perspective that it's the largest little island in the world. And you get up north and you're in the deserts and there's Muslim goat herders and you would swear that you're in the Middle East somewhere. And then you
With
get up
all
to
the
the
date
mountains
trees.
and yeah, and you get up to the mountains and you're like, where am I? And it's just, yeah, it's so diverse and so amazing, this island. So yeah, this is kind of, I think, where we're gonna put roots down, and just kind of make our home base here. And whether we have, other ones dotted around, that's to be seen.
Nice. Okay, Nick. So far, it's been so positive. It's a beautiful conversation. Now, I want us to talk about the cons of living in Sri Lanka, or let's say the problems expats in mind might face. And by this, I'm saying let's address the local people, the local youngsters, or people in tourism, or just anybody, the local Sri Lankans,
Okay.
from a perspective
Yeah,
of an
yeah.
American.
Okay, so one of the biggest things is, and it'll change, at least for me. It's funny because in the United States, I'm, I'm a minority, right? There's not, at least on the West Coast of the United States, there's definitely brown people and there's people of color, but not very prevalent like it is on the East Coast. So it's funny being there because my whole life I've been a little bit different because I've been a brown kid. As soon as I get here to Sri Lanka, I'm a white guy. And so everybody treats me as a white guy. So it's like, man, I just can't win wherever I'm at. But now that I'm learning the language, that's starting to change. So I think one of the cons, and one thing, and I'm not going to say all Sri Lankans do it, but it seems that a lot of like these tuk-tuk drivers and people in shops and people, and it's understandable, but they treat you as they're not going to see you again, and they want to get as much money out of you as they can.
You are
Right.
the
And
ATM.
it's correct. We're the ATM. And if they can hustle you for a $300 tuk-tuk ride for 2,000, they're going to try to get that out of you. And they're going to try to squeeze you for every penny. And a lot of the time, once let them know, hey, I'm not playing that game and it's this much money, either take it or leave it. And I'll walk to the next guy. They're like, okay, let's go.
How much
And
you
it's
want
kind
to
of like, ha
pay?
ha. Yeah. It's kind of like ha ha ha. So I think getting it also through, so that's one of the cons that I see with being in Sri Lanka, is that happens. And I'm not saying that happens all the time, because I've met more honest people that will treat you fairly than I have not. But there is those guys trying to hustle you and they think you're just a white guy. Once you're in an area for a little while and they see you more than once, month after month, they kind of realize like, okay, this guy's probably not going anywhere and he gets the deal. So that's probably one of the biggest things, is trying to get it through people's heads. It's like, hey, you might get me for 1,000 rupees once, but if you'd have done me right and gave me the 500 rupee ride, guess what? I would have took your phone number and I would have called you 3 times a day, every single
Yes.
day. And you could have had a cash cow. And at Christmas time, I would have gave you 10,000 rupees so that you and your family could go have a nice Christmas. And I'll do those things with the people that help me and the tuk-tuk drivers that help us and all the people. I'm more than happy and giving, and am totally into having alliances and creating a family and creating a community. So if there's one con, that's what it would be, is that a lot of these guys are used to like, oh, we just got this tourist here for a week. Let's hustle them as hard as we can and squeeze as much out of them as we can. And once again, you can't blame them, because from their point of view, they're seeing these really, really wealthy people coming that, 5,000 rupees is no big deal to them. They could throw it in the gutter and you wouldn't lose any sleep, where a local Sri Lankan person, that's 2 days wages. That's 3 days wage. That's a lot of money to them. So it's understandable that they want to hustle it and get as much as they can. That's one thing I find super aggravating about being here.
Mm,
Another con that I think is a big deal, and I try to let people know, especially in the hospitality business, they two things. They will either tell you if you go in somewhere and you say, "Hey, do you have this or can I get this?" Let's say I'm booking somewhere and go, "Hey, can you get me a ride so that I can get picked up and taken to Yala and go on a
mm,
day cruise?" People love to just tell you yes. They don't even know what you're saying, but they love to tell you yes. And then when it comes down to it, they have no idea what you were talking about. So either getting clarification or figuring out how to, I know there's a language barrier, but that's one thing that's a little bit aggravating. And then also people telling you no. I go now that I'm like kind of fixing up a house here and doing some work
mm.
on my own. I'll go to the hardware store and I'll ask for something. And instantly everybody just tells me no and tells me to go to another hardware store. And I've found now that I'll stop and I'll actually start looking on the shelves because more often than not, I find exactly what I'm looking for. Even if I show them a picture, even if I show them anything, they just instantly say no because they don't understand what I'm talking about, what I'm looking for. When they've got it right there on the shelf, I just have to go find it myself. And then I go, "Hey, remember the picture I showed you? This is what I'm looking for." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, 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 whatever." So if that's aggravating, and once again, none of these are deal breakers at all for
Mm,
me.
mm, mm,
Um,
mm.
but those are cons that I've found here.
Nick, can I add something to this? Uh,
Yes, yes.
the first episode I did with an American expat who lives in Sigiriya, he said the same thing. People just say no or yes to everything, even without understanding the context. To
Yes.
this, I would
Correct.
like to add. I see this as a problem from another perspective. Like we don't say no. I mean, we don't understand the barriers. I think
Mm,
this should change in Sri Lanka, especially when it comes
mm.
to the individuality. We are expected to say yes to our relatives, to our friends, to the neighbors, just everybody. There is no
Right,
barrier or individuality or my privacy is important. But no, no, no. In
right,
Sri Lankan context, in culture, I don't want to say it like a culture, but the lifestyle, you cannot say no. If you have to talk to
right.
someone, you have to talk. If someone is going to sleep with you on your bed, you have to. I mean, a relative or someone.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah. I got you.
bad,
I
and
got you.
we need to really change this saying yes and no just right away, without an
Yes.
afterthought.
Boundaries.
Yes, yes, that's
Being
the
able to set up
word.
boundaries. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And
yes,
and that really leads into the next thing. And the one thing that drives me absolutely batty is people cutting in line.
yes.
You could be standing there in line and somebody just shoves right in front of you and throws their stuff down, and it's like, "Hey, dude," and I understand it is the way it is, and maybe I'm not moving fast enough for them, but that's one con. And once again, all these are just very minute things. So,
Mm.
but yes, I think that also goes into boundaries and having respecting people's space and respecting people's
Yeah.
privacy and
Also, body
respecting
space.
people's correct
Everybody's too close.
individuality. Yes, everybody's like right breathing on your cheek, and it's yeah.
If someone wants to come and settle down in Sri Lanka with their family, especially with the kids, yeah? Do you have
Hmm.
any tips for them in short?
I would, we took about a year before we decided a year before we actually moved that that's what we were
Mm,
doing. Um,
mhm,
I think one big thing if you're moving is make sure that you've got obviously like people aren't gonna um just come out of nowhere, but like make sure you've got some kind of income coming in when you come. Make sure when you come
mhm,
that you're going to try to assimilate to the people. Try to make sure that you're gonna be part of the culture. You're gonna because the communities here are very welcoming. They don't care what color your skin is. They don't care where you're from. But I think I see too often that these expat families kind of start to huddle together and
mm,
they create their own little communities and they really don't go outside of those communities. And I think that's a real shame. I think that's a real shame, not getting to know the people, not getting to know the culture, not getting to know the families next door to you.
Mm,
That would be one piece of advice. Um, Doing your research on where you want to be located. Um,
mm,
because once again, like we're saying, there's so much diversity here.
yes.
And it's the same thing. It's trying to, figure out and make sure that if you are doing remote work, make sure there's good connections where you're going to go stay. Make sure, do your research and also have some backup plans for things, just in case, because once again, like we said, people love telling you yes. People don't want to tell you no. And sometimes, things aren't exactly what you had hoped for. Um, Also, I think one a big lesson was not putting Sri Lankans, like when you're looking for a house or people put stuff up for sale, people don't want to tell you prices of stuff. They want to get a price from you first so that they can figure out if they can get more money out of you. So that's a big thing, is just really being pushy on if you're going to move somewhere or you're going to live somewhere, you're going to rent a house. Find out how much they want for it and just be very forward and say, how much do you want for this house? And then you can figure out with it if with it's in your budget.
Mm,
Because at first, when we first got down south, I had said, hey, I'm looking for a house and I'll pay up to 250,000 rupees a month. Well, every single house that came to me was 250,000 a month. So, and once again, you can't blame the people because they were like, oh, he wants to spend that kind of money. Hey, I'll give you this house for a quarter million rupees a month, no problem. And then once I changed my attitude and just said, hey, I'm looking for a house. What do you have? That's when stuff started coming in, and it was like, hey, we got a house for 140,000 rupees a month.
mm,
And that's kind of where we settled. And I'm like, cool, I'm saving money. We found even something better than what we wanted.
mm.
So that's another piece of advice. And
That's a
then,
good tip.
that's a good, yeah, yeah. And then also if, um, finding once you get here and you do find somebody that's a good tuk-tuk driver, you find
Mm,
someone that's helpful and they're not trying to gouge you, um,
mm,
get their number. Keep
mm,
them in your inner circle because that's invaluable, having someone that's a local that's willing to take care of you and help you. And 99% of Sri Lankans are the most caring, helpful people that there are. There is some people hustling, but 90% of them, if you call them on their hustling, they instantly are like, oh yeah, you caught me. Like, all right, let's do regular business, So there's not really any aggressive hustling that goes on. But
mm,
when you find somebody who treats you right, keep them in your circle. Take care of them. Be kind to them, and they'll take care of you too. And there's so many people that we've been so blessed to have in
mm,
our lives since we've moved here that just continue to take care of us and help us constantly. And not because they want anything monetarily from us, just because they become family. So I think that just off the top of my head, is some of the best tips. And then also exploring around once you get here, exploring around to different stores, because different stores are going to have different things. And if you are looking for things because you want a little taste of home, our average grocery trip consists of sometimes 5 different places. We're going to go get our meat somewhere, we're going to get our fruit somewhere, we're going to get our vegetables somewhere, we're going to go get our other ancillary things somewhere else. So really exploring around and um figuring out in your community where all the different things are. And same thing,
mm.
finding your people, because you're gonna find people that'll teach you how to cook. You're gonna find people that teach you about the culture. They're gonna teach you to surf. They're gonna teach you all the different things.
Okay, Nick. I know I should have talked about this before, but slipped
Mhm.
my mind. But here I am. Now that you are especially living in down south, yeah, I see on the internet. I don't live there yet, but I see on the internet people complaining about the local businesses catering only for foreigners and just ignoring or ill-treating
Yes,
the locals. Yeah,
yes.
have you come
I
across such
find that
situations?
I daily. I find that constantly. If I walk into a place, they will shove the locals and come right over to see what I want. And I make sure that it's a point that I say, no, you help them first.
Mm,
There's plenty of restaurants down here. There's plenty of things where, yeah, they don't help the locals out. They don't take care of them. And they aren't pushing them aside for foreigners. And it's really upsetting to see. But yes, I see
Yes.
that on a daily basis if I'm out and about. Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely that's
Thanks.
going on.
Thank you for voicing it out, really. I mean, not all of us do it, yeah. I mean, there was an incident. I was in Nuareli or somewhere, and this happened, and I was hesitant to say anything because nowadays people will just record anything, cut pieces of it, and just
Oh
publish it
yeah.
on internet. So the rest
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
people
yeah.
don't understand what's going on. They'll like start bashing you. So
Correct.
yeah, but I'm thinking this time I will start doing it, whatever that comes,
Yeah, yeah, and that's
because
and that's where I've taken it is where if somebody's in front of me and they obviously are coming over to help me before someone else, that's not happening and they need to go help them. And if not that I'm aggressive about it, but I'll make it known that that's unacceptable. What are we doing here?
yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
If we can
so
back up to
yes.
one more thing, the
Mm,
one other con that I have about Sri Lanka is, and I think people are starting to get it, is plastic bags. People will sell you a bag of plastic and put it in a plastic bag and then put another plastic bag around it at the store. So
and we
that's
save
the
them in
one.
bags.
I'm like, and then save them in bags, and then you buy a bag of something with a handle, and they put it in another bag, and I'm like, what are you guys like? Stop! And I make sure to let them know every time I say no bag, too many bags in Sri Lanka, and they kind of are starting to go, oh yeah, 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 and really, there's actually a couple. There's one grocery store in particular here in Devada. Just outside of Gaul, that actually has started saving their cardboard boxes, and they will put your groceries in a cardboard box that's a recycled one from their groceries that they put on the shelf.
Mm,
So I think people are starting to get hip to that, but just the amount of plastic and how obsessed everybody is with having a plastic bag to put their stuff in like drives me nuts.
yes, yes. So Nick,
Yeah.
this is the episode. I have so much to talk, I think. I want to add
Yeah.
something more here. To my Sri
Okay.
Lankans from other platforms like TikTok, I have very young followers there, so I'm trying to use that platform. I'm trying to educate them that stop looking down on our culture or our food or everything we have and stop romanticizing the Western, everything coming from the West, or maybe it's a bad word, coming from foreign countries.
No,
I
that's
mean,
yep.
take the good stuff, but also people think like, okay, I need to go eat fast food to look cool, these kind of
Right.
things, or I need to use plastic, I need to become this consumerist to for people to think that I'm cool. No, you don't have to. You can
No,
dress
and
well,
and
groom
that's a
yourself well. You don't have to, have an iPhone in your hand. I mean, it's personal. If you can afford, yes, but if you cannot, that's not the way to
right.
go about it.
Correct.
So
Because here's the other thing. Um, the rest of the world, especially when they come here, Sri Lanka has such a long, beautiful history, and people do need to embrace that.
yes,
Constantly, I've got several young fellows that have like surf shacks where I go surfing every morning. And they're constantly asking me, hey, do you have a job in the US? Hey, how do I get to the US? I want to come to the US. And when I start explaining to them prices and I go, yeah, hey, you could come to the US. Guess what? You want a tiny little house? That's going to cost you, for every month, it's going to cost you 3 million rupees to live in the US at a very subpar level. And I start explaining rent and I go, rent now is $2,000 a month. And you want to go to the grocery store? That's $400, $500 every time just to eat groceries for the week. You want to go out to a dinner? That's $100. That's 30,000 rupees to go eat one meal, guys. And I think the West is so romanticized and people are it's so funny because, and maybe it's just the way of the world, but so many people romanticize the West and want to get out of there. And we romanticize this life from the West. We go, oh no, those guys that
yes,
are on the beach that just hang out and go surfing and teach tourists to surf and eat their rice and curry in the little shack and then go home and hang out and drink beer at night. Those guys are the real ones living.
yes, yes.
Those are the
uh,
people living. So Yeah, I don't know how to get that across, but I think all of this Western stuff, you know, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, all of these things are things that ruin societies. And honestly, I would like to see the government obviously start cracking down on some of those things too, because you know, Sri Lankans, you guys are beautiful. Your culture is rich, far, far, far older than any Western civilization that there is. And if you don't know about that, go to the museum in Colombo and you can learn about it. Go ask your auntie, go ask your grandparents. Your your way of life, your heritage, everything is so much more ancient than anything else that has been going on. It is so much more holy and is so much more pure than anything that's else is going on in the rest of the world. And I hope Sri Lankans can realize that and can see that and really see. And I try to spread that word as much as I can and go, no, you guys, you know, yeah, the US sounds great, but guess what? I'm trying to get out of there as fast as I can because this is where it's going on. This is what's happening, and this is really, really paradise, and this is the way that we're supposed to be living. It's not, you know, if you think having a BMW and wearing a suit every day, and waking up and the only thing you get to do is go to the gym for an hour and then you're sitting in a boardroom the rest of the time. I've spent my time sitting in offices and doing that, and that's not where it's at. That's not
Yeah,
where it's at because
I mean,
it's
the West and the Europe had their glory days, but now I feel
yeah.
like everything is a mess. And when I say I'm moving back to Sri Lanka, people are like, I mean, the Sri Lankans are like,
Oh,
why?
yeah. I go,
They don't.
what's wrong? Yeah. It's the same
I
thing.
miss
All of
the
my brother's
people. I
friends.
miss meaningful connections. I miss
Yes.
meaningful conversations, people with characters. Many things that we miss here, they don't seem to understand. But yeah, it's good to
Yeah.
travel. I encourage everybody to travel. And
Most
once you
definitely.
realize what you have back home, you will surely come back. This is what I think.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, Nick, it was so lovely speaking to you. I know we can go on for hours. I mean, all
Yes,
the
I think
people I have on this
yes.
podcast, really, really, I'm so blessed to find you all. So we will definitely work on about together. Yeah. About
Sounds good, Lena.
branding, marketing. Yeah. One more thing I want to add. I'm really happy to see Americans visiting Sri Lanka because you guys do marketing on a next level. You can just market anything. I tell my husband, your pizza and pasta is now famous thanks to the Americans. you know
Right.
so more
Right.
Americans visit Sri Lanka. I know the marketing is gonna be bomb. So yes, thank you, Nick. Thank you for
Perfect.
your time. It's lovely talking to you, and yeah, we will
Yeah.
work together in the future.
Beautiful. And Lena, shoot me your like TikTok and stuff because I've actually got a pretty it's in a different space. It's in government contracting, but I've got a pretty big following on TikTok. So anything I can do to help support you or promote you or anything like that, let me know. And I'll friend you or I'll just send you my information on TikTok and you can come find me on there.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Nick. Bye bye for now.
Thank you, Lena. It was absolutely wonderful. And let's stay in touch. Like I said, anything I can do to help you, to help this country and keep this place beautiful, I will bend over backwards to do so.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Oh, and that's
Bye.
another one.